Hey guys, it's Carly back with another What I Watched video. This is episode 4, and of course this is where I just update you guys on movies that I've watched recently, give my brief opinions and my ratings for them. So I'm just gonna hop right into it, and first up I watched Dark Knight of the Scarecrow. Talked about this one a little bit already in my recent update video on Blu-rays and DVDs and whatnot. And yeah, I really like this movie. It is a TV movie that I was always interested in checking out. It's actually got the guy from Dr. Giggles in it. Never realized that until I watched it. And yeah, I just always thought it had a pretty cool cover and title name. So I always wanted to check it out, and I was not disappointed. It is a very good TV movie, and they definitely don't make movies like this anymore, and I wish they did. But I gave this a 7.5 out of 10. Then next up is one that I've already talked about briefly, and that is The Haunting from like 1999, I believe. This is, of course, a remake of the Haunting classic that I have never seen before, so I can't really compare the two movies. So when I rate this one, it's not in comparison to the original. This was pretty entertaining, in my opinion. The cast was kind of weird with like Owen Wilson and Liam Neeson in it back in the day, and I don't know, for me, like, it kept my interest, and if a movie like this can keep my interest, that gets it up a few points, because sometimes I get bored with movies about hauntings and stuff like that. So I did give it a 7 out of 10. It probably doesn't really deserve that high of a rating, but it is what it is. And then next up is a couple movies that I saw at a drive-in recently, which was pretty awesome. It was an all-night drive-in that plays old horror movies on, I think it's 33 millimeter. I might be wrong about that. I don't know. Whatever, some millimeter, whatever. But anyway, the first one they played was Texas Chainsaw Part 2, and I was excited for this one, but unfortunately the first night we went, it rained the whole time, and that was kind of disappointing. It kind of made the quality of the experience go down a bit, but of course I do like this movie, so it was kind of cool to see it at the drive-in, and the print was very good. Sometimes the prints look horrible, but this one looked amazing. It was actually pretty flawless, so, but for this movie, I do give it an 8 out of 10 as a movie. And then next up, the next 3 movies I do not own and I had never seen previously to go into that drive-in, and that is Motel Hell was the next one. And I had heard that one's kind of goofy, but I didn't think it was going to be goofy all the way throughout, and it kind of took me out of the movie, and I was not a big fan. Kind of disappointing, because I thought I would really like that one, but I only gave it a 6.5 out of 10, just a little too out there for me. And then the next one was one I had never heard of at all. I'd never heard the title or anything about it, and that is I Drink Your Blood. And I was pleasantly surprised by that movie. It has this really cringy scene where people are eating, and it like focuses on them chewing these meat pies, and I hate the sound of people chewing, so that in itself was horrifying for me, and it had a couple gross elements to it, so I gave it a 7 out of 10. I did enjoy it. And then the last one for that night was Deranged, which is the movie based on Ed Gein's life, an actual movie based on his life, not just taking elements from it. So I thought that was pretty cool to see, like, you could see how Psycho used parts of his life as well as Texas Chainsaw. And I thought the guy who played him portrayed him pretty well. Like, it was just this normal, like, old guy you would never suspect to do horrible things. So I gave that one a 7.5 out of 10. And then the next night was a little bit better because it did not rain at all, and the quality was just so much better, and we got to sit outside and watch the movies as opposed to being in a car the whole time. So the first one on the list was Child's Play, and this was probably my favorite to watch at that drive-in. It was just so cool to see this movie on a big screen, and the quality of the print was once again pretty great, and I always forget how much I like this movie, but this is a great movie. I used to watch it a lot more when I was a child, and you kind of forget about how scary and good this movie is based on the couple bad sequels they're unfortunately in this franchise, but I do like how they're trying to bring back the scary aspects of Chucky, and I hope they continue with that. But anyway, yeah, I give this movie a 9 out of 10. It's almost a perfect movie for me, one of my favorites. And then next up was Black Christmas, which I'd only seen one time previously, and that was just last year for the first time. It was a newbie for me, and I did like it when I watched it, but I feel like you have to be in the mood for this type of movie, and I don't think I watched it like around Christmas either, and I was watching it alone, so I feel like I didn't appreciate it as much as I could have. So this experience was pretty cool seeing it at the drive-in. I will say the print was really bad on this. There were parts where the whole screen was just like red, like they all looked red. Like it just looked like the whole movie was shot in pure red and orange colors, but for me that kind of added to it. Like I thought it was cool. It made it look older than it actually is and not like as polished, but I did enjoy this movie a lot the second time viewing it, and the ending gave me chills. It's pretty cool. It's a pretty good ending. Like you just sit there silently while it's happening, and it's awesome to watch it in the drive-ins. So I gave this one an 8.5 out of 10. And then next up, we stayed for Madman. We did not stay for the final feature, which was Trick or Treat, but Madman is another one that I had not seen previously and was always kind of curious about. I'd heard mixed things about it, like it's just an average slasher, but for me, I really enjoyed it, and I think a lot of it had to do with the setting of where we were, because we were kind of like in a wooded area surrounded by trees and things like that, and there was like a river nearby, and of course this movie's set like in the woods, like it's a camp area, and I know for most people it's just like an average slasher, but I did enjoy the killer. I thought he was actually pretty scary. The actual characters were kind of lame, like probably the lamest I've ever seen, so I probably would have not enjoyed this as much if I watched it like alone at my place as opposed to where we were, but I gave it an 8 out of 10. I know that's kind of a high rating, but for the experience, it just kind of amped it up a bit for me, so 8 out of 10. Then next up we have American Psycho. I'd always wanted to check this one out, had never seen it before. For me, it was a really good movie, but I don't see much rewatch value in it for me personally. I know a lot of people think you could take a lot out of this, but for me, it's not one that I would reach for over and over again. But with that being said, it was a great movie for what it was, had some bizarre moments, and I did give it an 8 out of 10. And then after that is Crystal Lake Memories. I watched this within a 2-day period, so I watched like 3 hours one day, 3 hours the next, because this is like 6 hours long, like 5.5 or something like that. But this is a really good documentary. Like it goes in depth with every single movie, even the bad ones. Like they all get equal amounts of time to be talked about, so I really respect that, and they got a lot of good people to come back for this. I gave it a 10 out of 10. I know there are better ones out there. I've heard that the Nightmare on Elm Street one is a little bit better than this, but for me, I really enjoyed it, and I had never seen other ones before this, so right now it's a 10 out of 10, and I do love the franchise, so that helps a lot. Then we have Christina's House, and this is one from like the early 2000s. Feels kind of like it took a lot from Scream or something like that, and it's interesting because I thought I'd never seen this or heard of it before, but there was like a 5-second moment that like came back to me in my memory, so I feel like I must have been flipping through channels one night and came across this briefly and just wasn't interested. So that was kind of cool. The acting's a little bit bad at some points in this movie, but other than that, I thought it was pretty good for what it is, and I did give it a 6.5 out of 10. Then after that was a pretty good slasher, and that is Cold Prey. I'd heard about this before, didn't know much about it, didn't even know it was a slasher subtitled or anything like that, but I thought the characters were pretty cool and the acting was really good, and I gave this an 8 out of 10. I like the setting as well. I love the snowy settings because it just feels so uncomfortable when you're freezing and there's a killer after you. That kind of sucks. That is one that I do not like too much, and that is Dead Girl. I know a lot of people give this one praise for originality and just like how messed up it is, but I did not like the two main characters too much, and that kind of ruined it for me, unfortunately. But I know some people do like this, and it is a cool plot. I gave it a 5.5 out of 10 though, I gotta be honest. And then lastly, we have Patrick. This is one I picked up at a pawn shop. I'd heard things about this before and was always kind of interested because I like movies where the title is someone's name. They're always bound to be kind of weird and messed up, so this one did not disappoint. It's only PG, but it was really well done, and the character Patrick is just scary looking. All he does is sit there, but he's like terrifying to me. I did give this an 8 out of 10, and sorry to rush this, guys, but my camera is about to run out of memory because I'm just using my phone, and I really need to get a camera soon. But thank you for watching. Hope you enjoyed this installment, and I will see you next time.